All right, everybody, it's time for another moment in your day with Survival of the Fittest is the soup du jour. Today is Miercoles. Miercoles can only mean one thing. It's Miercoles de Musica. We're going to talk about different, musical things that I like to talk about. You know, I'm into music. Everyone knows that. And I think all kitchens and all chefs are into music. I don't think I've ever worked with a chef that wasn't some kind of music aficionado. You know, they either like something, whatever the music, ultimately, but, and of course, growing up in California y Puerto Rico, the music in the kitchens were always dominated by o rancheras, o buena salsa, o merengue, ya tú sabes. So, Miercoles de Musica. Lately, I have been really kind of tuning into some pretty crazy shit, I gotta admit. I mean, music that I would have to say that is not your, standards, only because it's just forgotten tunes, I don't know. I dare even want to even mention what bands, but you should look them up just so you get an idea where I'm coming from. Los Pasteles Verdes, Los Muecas, Los Temenarios, and only because there's this time, I think, in Mexican music that didn't quite happen, but really did happen, and there's proof because you can hear the songs, but it's not ranchera music, norteño tunes with accordion. It's not bandas. It's not, mariachi music, rancheras. It sort of just never really took off, so, but there's tons of content, tons of music out there for you to listen to, and it's just got this funky 70s ass organ sound to it that I just kind of love right now. So that's what I've been listening to lately, and, I thought I would mention that. Not to mention, of course, I listen to so much music. Whenever I'm out and about, I'm listening to music. Whenever I'm in the restaurants, I'm listening to music. Whenever I'm home, I'm listening to music. So it's one of those things that, I just can't live without. So, do share with us. And, once again, I'd like to thank Orlando Brewing for bringing us some beers again. And that's making my evening really nice. My Miercoles de Musica. Miercoles de Musica con Chef Treviño. And a few beers from Orlando Brewing. So that's always good. Remember, we're still taping on Mega TV. You got to check us out. Kinda Life, a lot of fun. We're doing recipes with CBD, flor, and a lot of good vibes. So I think people are really a good response so far. So let's hope that keeps rolling, only because we love to be hamming it up on TV, ladies and gentlemen. Seguro que sí. And we'll continue to find new recipes and exciting dishes so you could feel good internally and mentally and and all around just happiness. So definitely like the show Kinda Life on Mega TV Puerto Rico, Mega TV en Orlando, sábado a las 3. Nos vemos todos los sábados con una receta nueva. So look us up. See what else we want to hit today other than just your standards. I'm always out and about looking for new things to talk about. I was recently at a great Puerto Rican bakery. Actually, you guys are going to want to hit me because the name escapes me. I think it's Vanessa's. I think it's here in Lake Nona, and it's over right at the entrance of Lake Nona. It's kind of behind some other shops, so you barely see it, but she's got some Puerto Rican postres, quesitos and things like that. Y un cafecito bien cargado like we like in Puerto Rico. So it's really cool. I've discovered it recently and have been going there for coffee and pastries. So if you're in Lake Nona, aquí in Orlando, go to Vanessa's. I believe it's Vanessa, and if it's his wrong name, you just call me out. I'm willing to take the abuse. Pero that's definitely it. How could you go wrong? A quesito in the morning with un cafecito bien cargado. That for me is life. And yeah, I know I'm a sucker for Red Bull. And that's recent, by the way. My only source of heavy duty stimuli was coffee for years. recently I've discovered Red Bull, and I'm gone with the diet stuff because that other stuff, the non sugar free, the regular Red Bull, oh my God, it's so fattening. Shit, it's like, forget about it. So, but it's a good jolt. I like it. It's kind of got a weird, like, you start to sip it, and then all of a sudden you're guzzling it down. It's like there's nobody who doesn't guzzle it down. It's a trip. I wonder if it has something in the recipe that makes you want to guzzle it, because it's a trip. You know, you just like, you want to sip, but then you just instantly go to guzzling, clunk, 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 and you know, you're just going right through this can of Red Bull. No matter what the size of the can, you just drink the shit out of it. So it's interesting. I'd be curious to know if it was an ingredient there, because, you know, as a chef, I would love to find some ingredient that made people want to just like guzzle and eat up my food, you know. So that's an interesting thought. But it's good for sure. But I do love coffee, and Vanessa's here in Lake Nona is definitely a good place to get a good strong coffee, because a lot of places, you know, American coffee is American coffee is American coffee. It's good because it's coffee, because I'll drink coffee out of a sock if I got to drink coffee out of a sock, but I got to have coffee. So, you know, I've had my share of American style coffee where I say to myself, like, it's tasty, it's good, but it's just not strong enough. And I go to a place called Sweet Mama's, and they have a great breakfast. And they do decent coffee. But, I mean, literally, it is just decent. Because, I mean, not that it's bad coffee. There is no such thing in my world as bad coffee. So please don't take this the wrong way. But it's not, you know, un cafecito puertorriqueño. It's not, you know, un colao cubano. It's not, you know, Juan Valdez, strong-ass Colombian coffee, or even this Greek coffees or Turkish coffees, you know, or even the Thai and or Vietnamese coffee. Strong, very dark and thick and heavy. That's what I like in coffee. And sometimes I find myself, like at a 7-Eleven or at a Wawa or one of these, like, just get gas and let me grab a coffee. And so turned off by the coffee that I turned to Red Bull. It's just like, that's what happens. So, you know, I save my coffee experience for either here at my house in the morning. Like, the first thing I do is like hug my dogs, wish them a good morning, get my greca. And anyone who knows coffee and anyone who knows Latin coffee knows what I'm talking about when I say la greca. And I get my greca going, and I make it super packed. I'm packed, dark, you know, coffee de la isla. You know, I love Cafe Mami. It's actually like my favorite coffee, because it's just dark roast to it, a dark flavor, just super killer, and it's just got this zing. So I love Cafe Mami. I love a lot of these. I had actually a company called Don Juan out of Miami who brings a Colombian coffee, but they fuse the beans with bourbon. And that was delicious. I'm into that coffee for sure. So it's Don Juan, right? Yeah. It's Don Juan. Good stuff. So definitely my friends in Miami, that's great stuff. Chef Walken, those guys are great guys. Shout out to my boy Carl, who's the best. These guys got a great amount of... I did an interview with them. They have a show called, I believe it's just Walk and Talk. And it's on YouTube. Look it up. I think I was episode 8. And look me up, because I had fun with those guys. Those guys are a trip and a lot of fun. So greetings to my boys over in Walk and Talk. You get it right. Walk and Talk. I like it. Yeah. I thought it was Chef Talk for a minute, but I was like, what, dude? You know, obviously the Orlando Brewing, this is like, I actually started, before we started our podcast, I had like 3 of them. And yeah, I'm feeling it good. Música, Miercoles, música de Miercoles, what? Yeah, it's definitely rolling. Okay. Anyway. Yeah, I love the studio audience effect. It just, once again, reminiscent of great historical, like TV, and you would have the canned laughter. I love that shit. I love it, actually. I don't understand where it all went to, where it's all at now. I was talking to my boy Rick. We want to do some TV content, and you tell me what you're thinking, folks. Why don't you share some ideas with us? And I always believe you just need to follow the template. And I've said this before about the game shows, and I said it before about TV shows. Cooking shows. And I'm about to say it about one other thing. I love the template of the dance show. The American Bandstand style show, the Soul Train with Don Cornelius style, where everyone was just kind of dancing the latest hits, or would bring a singer or a band, and everyone would just do their thing, and everyone would tune in. And I said to myself, what happened to those shows? Maybe people's attention spans have changed. Maybe you couldn't do 30 or 40 or 50 minutes or, of a dance show and expect everyone to just kind of watch the people dance and, bring on the star and do their song. And of course, the witty host giving his, that was great, Kevin and Susie. That was wonderful. You have to show us those dance moves and, just the corniness of it all. But I think it can be done. Maybe a shorter version of it, since the tension span. Hey, when are you not on your YouTube, on your Instagram and don't see, like some dance competition or somebody doing some dance moves and you actually are compelled to watch? And this is me. I hope it's most people, because I like to think that I have some idea of what's going on, but I honestly believe that the dance show should make a comeback. Maybe a new, improved version of it. Maybe algo en Latino, algo en Español. Maybe, in a place like here, like in Orlando, which is the new Latino melting pot. It was New York for many years. It was Miami for many years. Los Angeles, ni se diga. Houston, these are cities that have seen large Latin American populations moving into their city limits and sort of making their neighborhoods and their restaurants and building their cultures. And then over time, the mixing of the Latino cultures, which is really the new Nuevo Latino style. And I think maybe a new dance show aquí in Orlando, which once again I say it is the new Latino melting pot of America. Maybe something like that's necessary, where we can get a little flavor de todos los países. You know what I'm talking about? Un sazoncito de todos los países. Sin envolverme mucho porque rapidito me voy rápido a hablar sucio. So, we don't want to go sucio. Let me see here. Let's talk some food for a little bit here, okay? Let's talk about some food. Empanadas. I love empanadas. I love, spinach and cheese. I love just cheese and onion. I love, the picadillo, the Argentine style empanada. The empanada de España, la empanada de, tú sabes, cubana, tú sabes, el pastelillo de Puerto Rico. The sweet empanadas de Mexico. There's the debate. Where is the empanada from? Who has mastered the empanada? Or has the empanada yet to be mastered? Is it still just sort of a novelty thing that we get like, vamos a comer unos pastelillos de carne o de pizza o lo que sea allá en Puerto Rico por la mañana, tú sabes, pues, staple. Or una empanada de carne argentina, picadillo argentino, tú sabes, con pasas y de todo, un poco, boludo. All the good stuff. O tú sabes, la empanada de España, which is kind of more like like crust on top, crust on bottom, and then cut. A little different, but, or the empanada mexicana. I go to the Mexican, to the bakery over here on Colonial and I'll get, a bunch of conchas for our Sunday brunch. But then I always buy myself a little empanada filled with like sweet potato. It's called camote. And they fill it with a seasoned sweet potato or calabacita, and they're both wonderful. My grandma used to make these little tiny empanadas, sweet empanadas with like pineapple inside and a lot of sugar just coated all over the outside. Like a churro, no cinnamon. But they were like rad and they were little and I could eat like 100 of them, when I was little. Don't you love how Latins say like when you're like young, they say little when I was little? So anyways, when I was little, I used to love those little pineapple empanadas my grandma would make. So great memories of empanadas, great possibilities for a food concept, great possibilities for chefs to be creative with. And, great stories that revolve something so simple, something so Latino, something so shared amongst so many Latin cities around the world. And yet, something that could be very exploited still. I mean, I say it like that, but it could be a hit when you think about empanadas, and how easy they are to eat. Well, I mean, I guess there's a frozen version of them. I mean, how about Jamaican patties, which are very much an empanada, if you ask me, and delicious because, I love West Indian food. I love food from the Caribbean. Like, if you're going to take me to Jamaica, the BVI, the USVI, Trinidad, Tobago, just, St. Croix, I'm going to mention because St. Croix's got some great restaurants and some great West Indian style food. A shout out to Chef Digby, who's out there, who does a great job, and he's a good brother. And, it's always like just so, it's good. So the Jamaican patties for sure are on the list of great empanadas. So that's something you want to look into if you're running a kitchen, if you want to find something easy to make, something exciting, and something that really needs to be showcased a little more. So definitely the debate of the empanada and where it's from, not relevant because it's got to be from the heart. Hey, yeah, okay. I won't get so corny. But definitely look into the empanadas. They're awesome. I mean, I remember having an empanada in Jamaica once, a curried goat, a patty that was, it was pretty delicious. But I will say that just as delicious, and a lot of people can't figure out vegetarian food. The Jamaicans got the Ital diet down. Yes, man, got you covered right. The vegetarian patties in the West Indies are amazing because there's a lot of vegetarians amongst the islands, lots. And certainly the East Indian connection from India that sort of found their way into the Caribbean at one point in history brought a huge influence as well. I mean, and I think the spiciness of it, of a lot of the food comes from that. And I think the East Indian touch that you find in a lot of these islands is very unique and mixes with, of course, the very African, ingredients and very African cooking style. And again, I mean, people say to me, oh, well, I think fusion's done. And I say, well, has fusion ever really been done? I mean, isn't all our food some sort of fusion food? And I think West Indian food is a perfect example of that. Not to mention most Latin American dishes definitely have a lot of their style rooted in food from the old world, from España. And of course, given the ingredients and the terrain, the terroir of everybody's different regions in the world, then yeah, the food becomes very distinctly Mexico, very distinctly Puerto Rico, very distinctly Cuba, very distinctly Peru, to say Colombia, Venezuela, Brazil, Argentina. All these places have sort of taken, well, the Argentines tend to bring a lot of Italian onto the plate, but it's all good. They tend to bring a lot of the history from España and the techniques. I mean, what Latin American country doesn't love rice, doesn't make great rice dishes? Well, there's a place in España called Valencia that does just spectacular paellas and spectacular rice dishes. And I think that the understanding of eating rice, even though everyone says, look, rice and beans are very much Latin American, they come from somewhere else. And certainly I think Spain plays a huge role in just giving everybody, all of the Latin American countries, a big foundation. Obviously, the African cultures have brought a lot of, angles as far as flavor profile and techniques to the Latin American kitchen. And the Indian, of course, the indigenous cultures of the Latin American, continent and Central America, and North America, obviously, have influenced heavily into the cooking lexicon of the Latin American kitchen. And to say that it's 100% Spain would be foolish, but to recognize its influence, I think, is huge. To understand everyone's regional needs and likes and just desires to put together great dishes. Well, that's what's given us a really exciting food dynamic within Latin America, which rivals Asian food, which, people say like, oh, no, they invented this and they invented that. Like, listen, they didn't invent corn tortillas. They didn't invent arroz y habichuelas, if you ask me, pero whatever. It's all good. And obviously, I love discovering Latin American dishes. And so if you have anything that you want to share with us, like one of those things like in Ecuador, you say like, well, what's an Ecuadorian dish? Well, I had the pleasure while I was on Iron Chef to meet a chef named Jose Garces, who is Ecuadoriano. And when we were we were on a challenge where we had to sort of cook a dish of our ancestry, of our relatives. And he actually made a soup called locro. And this is a dish from Ecuador. And it was amazing. Not to mention he's an amazing chef, so his locro was over the top. But I tell you what, the second or third time that I had locro, it was just as good. So these are dishes like of Ecuador, where you'd say like, well, I don't know many Ecuadoriano dishes. And there's one that is worth trying, el locro. And, there's dishes out there that need to be found and shared with everyone else. So definitely search it out and dig into your own cultural bag of goodies to find how to excite your guest if you're a chef in a restaurant. And if you're not, then how to excite your family when you're cooking for them. How do you keep your family entertained, when you're cooking? Or how do you bring in the family to cook with you? Because there's nothing that I think there's not a bigger family building event in a household than cooking together. And it's definitely something that your children should learn and your family should do together, is cook. In the old days, it was like, Mom, what are we eating? And your mom would just roll her eyes and say, we're eating this. And, my mom was good because she had like this sort of days where she'd cook like Miercoles de Musica, like we're doing now. Well, I sort of she would do her little days where she would cook certain days of the week. And, you kind of knew she had her schedule or her menu, and they would vary every other third week maybe, and it was delicious. And, one thing, I think in the times we're living now is to involve the family in the kitchen with you. Not only be like, hey, Mom, what are we having for dinner? But, hey, what are we cooking tomorrow? Or let's write our menu on Sunday evening and really give everyone a task, and they become your chef de parties, in your kitchen. And you could cook something together, or just do it once a week, whenever, just kind of get people cooking. I think cooking is a great family builder. It's a great effort. There's a lot of love involved and a lot of technique that's important. It's lifelong. I mean, I watched my mom cook for years at home, and I had no idea how much influence that would have on me. And of course, everyone says, well, where'd you learn to cook? Or why'd you become a chef? Oh, my mom, I loved it. It was the best. But nothing could be more true, And there's great chefs out there that say, my mom couldn't cook anything. She'd burn everything. And, I've heard that before, but 9 times out of 10, I think I hear my grandma was a great cook. My aunts were great cooks. My mother was a great cook. And, from there comes some great chefs. So you never know. Be a great influence, and cook with your family and create the next big chefs of our world. And, I tell you what, it's important to do that. It's important to recognize who we are culturally, who we are in the future, what we could do with food. And remember, we're still getting through some tough times. All my chef brothers and sisters out there, all the best. I'm hoping everyone can pull through this. We're getting closer, everybody. We're seeing the light. We're almost at the end of this rough shift. I mean, how many times have you been in the kitchen and you just had a miserable night? And it just never ended. But then it ends. We're getting there, folks. We're almost past this COVID shit. And when we're past it, we'll get back together and we'll cook again and we'll eat again together and we'll have a great time. Meantime, go looking for your kids to cook with you. Inspire them to be great chefs. And remember, survival of the fittest is the soup du jour. I'm Roberto Treviño. I'm still a chef and I'm looking forward to seeing you all soon. So let's do it again real soon. Música de Miercoles de Musica. Always tune in. We'll see you soon. Hasta luego. Salud.